That's sparking widespread...
Now we're going to go to Donald Trump, who's talking about Iran from the White House.
And he understands, but it's ultimately up to me. If the deal isn't a very fair deal and a very good deal with Iran, then it's going to be, I think, a very difficult time for them in the back. I guess over the next month, something like that. Yeah, shouldn't take, I mean, it should happen quickly. They should agree very quickly. Yeah.
Mr. President, we might be heading into a partial government shutdown. When was the last time you spoke with Chuck Schumer? And do you still feel Democrats are negotiating in good faith?
Well, a week ago I spoke, but, you know, we have to protect our law enforcement. Actually, the Supreme Court gave a ruling, or one of the courts gave a very big ruling on masks, that you have the right to use them, you know, for personal protection if you want. So I don't know how that interjects. You know, they want our law enforcement to be totally vulnerable and put them in a lot of danger. They have some things that are really very hard to approve, frankly. As you know, it's only pretend. We had various of the other bills. That's all done, but we're left with this one. We have to protect our law enforcement. Very important. Please.
Why does Prime Minister Netanyahu want you to stop negotiating with Iran?
He is. You're saying stop entertaining, stop talking to them. Didn't say that. We didn't discuss that. I'll talk to them as long as I like, and we'll see if we can get a deal with them. And if we can't, we'll have to go to phase two. Phase two will be very tough for them. I'm not looking for that.
Mr. President, there are currently 0 Israeli hostages left in Gaza because of you. Thank you for that. And now that the war is ending in Gaza and Israel, I wanted to ask, do you believe Bibi bears any responsibility for the security failures that we saw on October 7th?
Well, October 7th was a rough time, and I guess everybody's responsible. It's you to look, but it was a terrible attack. It was a sneak attack. It was as violent as unfortunately, I've seen some of the results at levels that probably even you, good reporter, but probably you haven't seen. It was a horrible thing that took place. People were surprised. It was a surprise attack. Nobody saw that coming. He didn't see it coming. Nobody else would have seen it coming if they were in his position, I don't believe. But I can tell you he's been a very good wartime prime minister. He's been very strong. We've worked with him very well. We had tremendous success with Iran and everything else we've done. And he really has been. He's been, extraordinary as far as a wartime prime minister. Not easy. And, you have a president that refuses to give him a pardon. I think that man should be ashamed of himself. A pardon over this trial that's going on. The president of Israel, the primary power he's got is the power to give pardons. And he's not, he said he's given it 5 different times, but he doesn't want to do it because I guess he loses his power. I think the people of Israel should really shame him. He's disgraceful for not giving it. He should give it. But Bibi's been a great wartime prime minister, and I've been the best friend to Israel I think that they've ever had. A lot of people say beyond presidents that they've ever had, and we will continue to be. Yes, ma'am.
On the SAVE Act, Mr. President, voter ID polls very well nationally. Even the majority of Democrat voters want it.
Right.
So why do you think Senate Democrats are resisting the SAVE Act, and what is your strategy and realistic pathway to getting the SAVE Act passed to ensure free and fair elections for the next generation?
It's such a great question. I appreciate it, actually, because it's called the Save America Act. We've changed the name. It's the Save America Act, and the Democrats are against it. I heard one of them saying, we will stop the Save America Act. No, we're trying to save America. And it has to do with largely voting. And basically, it's got 3 very simple points. It's got voter ID, photo ID, but voter ID with a photo, right? It's got the confirmation of U.S. citizenship. You have to be a citizen. So you have a vote, you have an ID. That's about a 99% one. And I think 90% with Democrats. Then you have confirmation U.S. citizenship. That's about a 99% one with Republicans, about 86% with Democrats, except Democrat politicians because they cheat on elections. And then you have no mail-in ballots. And there would be no mail-in ballots, very important. We're the only country in the world that does a system like we do. We're the only country in the world that has mail-in ballots. The way we do this is unbelievable. It guarantees cheating. So it's no mail-in ballots with the exception of disability, illness, military, or if you're traveling, you can get an exemption. You know, if you happen to be out of the country for a good reason, you can have an exemption. So with exceptions, it's no mail-in ballots, and that will assure the security of our crooked elections. We have crooked elections, yeah.
Mr. President, have you fired or disciplined that staffer who posted the video from your account that included the Obamas?
No, I haven't. That was a video on, as you know, voter fraud, and fairly long video, and they had a little piece and had to do with the Lion King. It's been very well, it's been shown all over the place long before that was posted. But that was a very strong, and I'm sure you saw it, a very strong piece on voter fraud. And the piece that you're talking about was all over the place many times, I believe for years. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, were you aware that Secretary of Commerce visited Epstein's island, and do you continue to have?
No, I wasn't aware of it. No, I didn't. I actually haven't spoken to him about it. I wasn't. But from what I hear, he was there with his wife and children. And I guess in some cases, some people were. I wasn't. I was never there. Somebody will someday say that. I was never there. Yeah, please.
This announcement that you made today, Mr. President, comes on the heels of a January jobs report that smashed industry expectations.
Smashed all records.
And a big feature of that was you reprivatizing the economy, an economy that was bloated with federal employment under the previous president. What's your message to Americans following this jobs report that smashed industry expectations? Is this just a sign that the best is yet to come?
Thank you. The jobs report's amazing in certain ways because we have tremendously fewer federal employees, way down. And now I could have left them and added to what we did, and we would have had almost 100% employment. I could have gotten a great kick out of the fact that we're 100% employed, but we got rid of tremendous numbers of federal workers, and they hated me for it. Now they love me because most of them have gotten jobs in the private sector for 2 and 3 times more money than they were being paid by the federal government. We had some jobs where you had 10 workers for one job, 10 workers for a job that one person should be doing. And we've gotten rid of a lot of those jobs. And by getting rid of them, these people became available to work in the private sector. And as you know, the numbers are incredible. So the job numbers are incredible. The financial numbers are beyond belief. Again, they thought it couldn't be done in 4 years, and I did it in 1 year. And the numbers you're going to see is these, I don't know if you notice also construction numbers, the jobs for construction workers. You know why? Because they're building plants all over the United States. That's why. And when these plants open in a year from now, some sooner, some a little bit later, but when these auto plants, AI plants, and thousands of other types of plants, when they open over the next period of a year, year and a half, you're going to see numbers like we've never seen before in this country. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
That was Donald Trump live for us there from the White House, taking questions from reporters. They talked about the Save America Act, a very important piece of legislation for him. And he also talked about Iran. He also talked about Israel, which is what we're going to talk about with our correspondent, Mike Hanna, who is live for us from Washington, D.C. He was in that building behind you, Mike. He always talks about things off of the cuff. But what was really interesting is when he did mention Iran, he said that he was talking to them, that he wanted to get a deal with them, but it might take a month. Now, we've heard the talking to them before, but we haven't really heard a timeline before. And I think that's kind of interesting because that was the big question people are asking. When are you going to get this deal, right?
Well, let's make very clear, he has kind of indicated that before. A few days ago, he said that we are not in a rush. We have plenty of time. He made that very clear. And this appears to be part of his central policy now with regard to Iran, is that he wants negotiation. He wants to give it some time to go forward. He's been talking as well about another round of negotiations being held at some stage and in some place. But significant as well to remember is that he met the Israeli Prime Minister in the last 24 hours. That meeting was held off camera. It was held behind closed doors. Some of the reports coming out indicate that he made very clear that he is intent on carrying through a negotiation process with Iran, despite the Israeli Prime Minister's concerns about that particular path. So we do see a sort of constancy with regard to Iran emerging now in the Trump policy, and that is, let's give it time, let's talk, let's get an end to this, let's get a solution that will satisfy everybody, particularly the United States of America.
But Mike, once again, he was also, and you just mentioned his meeting with Netanyahu there, he was also very supportive of Netanyahu. He actually criticised the president of Israel for not giving Netanyahu the pardon that he clearly thinks that Netanyahu should get. So do you think those two things were deliberate? They came in concert with each other?
Well, you win some and you lose some. I mean, very clearly, President Trump is keeping a balance in his relationship with Prime Minister Netanyahu, intent on not being seen to publicly repudiate him, and in fact to go the other way, to express his support specifically and emphatically to the President of Israel that he should be granted a pardon. So this is a bilateral path that President Trump appears to be walking. On the one hand, he's intent on getting through an Iran policy that at this stage does not include direct confrontation with Iran. It would appear that he is still set on that path of negotiation. That is something that the Israeli Prime Minister is against. But President Trump, very clearly, for strategic reasons as well, perhaps, wants to keep that relationship between the US and Israel, in particular the Israeli Prime Minister, very close, because no doubt he sees that as part of the leverage that he will be used in ongoing talks with Iran, is that if we don't come to an agreement, basically, to put it bluntly, I'll let them loose. So we do have a dichotomy in terms of the Trump approach here. On the one hand, praising the Israeli Prime Minister, on the other hand, saying that he doesn't agree with the Israeli Prime Minister on the issue of Iran.
Mike, thanks so much for helping us unpack that press conference. Thank you so much.